Welcome back guys to another video of Shadow Slave, and I have already recorded 3 chapters of it right now, but I just couldn't wait for reading this particular chapter because if you can see the counter of the chapters, this is the 3000th chapter of Shadow Slave. Congratulations guys, we have hit a milestone. 3000th chapter. I loved this. My God, it's huge. It's a huge chapter. It's 3,400 words. One of the longest chapter. Uh, Guilty 3 has posted. I loved this series very much, and now that Asterion is defeated and imprisoned or whatever. I just can't put it into words, man. We just have to read to get to know more. But before that, I will quickly change the music to a more, calm, nice music because the battle is over. It's the aftermath we are dealing with. So wait, wait a few seconds, and I will get back to you with a better music. I think it's much better. It's not a battle music per se, but I think it's better. Let's start reading. Chapter 3000, Memories of Oblivion. Sunny had regained his fate and was remembered by the world. Ironically enough, on the same day, the memories of most humans in the world were wiped clean of the events that had transpired in the last few years. Some remembered more, while some remembered less, but almost no one remembered it all. Needless to say, it was a mess. In fact, it was a disaster. The entire world was thrust into a state of disorder and confusion, and the only thing that prevented it from sliding into a devastating panic was the fact that people who lived in the age of nightmare spell had developed a strong tolerance to, to peculiar calamities. Some discovered themselves in new and unfamiliar places, having moved or wrestled, du- wrestled, wrestled during the times that was missing from their memories. Some found out that their loved ones had passed. Some discovered that their children had grown or that they were awaiting the birth of a new one. Some people suddenly found themselves wielding awakened powers, while others discovered that they had advanced to a new rank, even if they could not remember having conquered a nightmare. It was a global crisis on an unimaginable scale, comparable only to the descent of the nightmare spell. Humanity had learned how to better handle such a crisis, though. Needless to say, every person who knew what had happened instantly became terribly busy in the immediate aftermath of the disaster. In NQSC, Jet was barking orders in the conference hall of the government headquarters, pushing her dazed and disoriented subordinates to move. Wake of Ruin was dead, but luckily most of the high ranking administrative personnel had survived the plague. So even if they did not know the details, they were able to begin working at mitigating the damage with a bit of guidance from Soul Reaper. The government was the most important part of the solution because it controlled the information channels and military forces of the waking world. However, even the greater depths of its vast logistical network were not enough to deal with the consequences of the plague, or rather, of its cure. In Ravenheart, Kai was trying to handle the situation despite having just experienced a traumatic encounter with a cursed devil, as well as the worst several months of his life. In Bastion, Effie was commanding the escaped prisoners to take command of the people whom they had been fighting only hours earlier and pacify the reeling city together. And on the Chained Isles, Nephis herself was taking charge of the great army of humanity. Sunny was hiding in her shadow. Mordred whisked the white mist off his predecessor had unleashed back into the eerie depths reaches of the Hollow Mountains and disappeared without a trace. From the looks of it, he wasn't keen on spending time with the other Supremes, or with any other human really. The Hollow Mountains welcomed him with boundless silence. And Cassie was still asleep, having been utterly drained by the impossible undertaking of encompassing all of humanity in the inevitable web of her aspect. It was unclear how long she would spend in the embrace of deep, rejuvenating slumber. However, her life did not seem to be in danger, so all they could do was wait for her to wake up. Sunny was busy as well. He had to retrieve Revel, Aiko, and the Shadow Clan from wherever it was that they had hidden themselves. There was a disaster brewing on the Forgotten Shore as well. From the looks of it, the ring of ancient burrows that surrounded the buried forest had begun to emanate some sort of ominous aura in his absence, and several hunting parties of the barrow rats appeared out of nowhere, for, uh, ambushing for the mimic. That was a problem he would have to explore later as well. For now, though, in his time of turmoil and uncertainty, the agents of the Shadow Clan had a job to do. Their presence was desperately needed, so Sunny wanted to bring them back as soon as he could. Everyone was terribly busy, and everyone had to do far more than what was humanly possible. The first 24 hours after the final confrontation against the Ring Spawn were especially chaotic, but on the other side of that day, a semblance of order started to reveal itself from the carnage. People were still confused and disturbed, but some mourning the loss of what they had forgotten, some having forgotten what they had lost. Others were coming to terms with suddenly discovering happiness they did not remember finding instead. But life went on. Even if soldiers stationed in NQSC did not remember how they had gotten to their post that day, someone still had to man the walls of the quarantine zones, especially around the active night brigades, patrolling the wasteland around the city and watch over sleepers undergoing their first nightmares. Even if doctors working in the crowded hospital did not remember the names of their patients, they still had to treat them. People had to feed their children, care for their elderly, and maintain the cities they lived in. Humanity had to continue moving forward, so it had to recover and get back to work. I will drink some water now. My throat is getting dry. So let's move on. So it did. It began to recover at least. There was why soon after the Transform was defeated, the members of the cohort arranged to meet in person at the Immortal Flame Manor in NQSC. The informal meeting was going to be followed by an emergency assembly of all key figures of the human domain, but for now, the cohort was gathering in private. Sunny arrived with a special guest as well. Uncle Sunny. Little Link was holding his hand as they emerged from the shadows in one of the corridors of Nephis Manor. Sunny spared him a look. What? The little boy grinned. Can I have a nightmare horse too? Please, pretty please. Sunny chuckled. A fan of Nightmare, are you? Well, sorry to disappoint you. There's no horse like Nightmare anywhere in the world. In fact, there were even horses left in the world. Were there even horses left in the world? Sunny was not sure. They approached a private launch hidden in the depths of the manor. Little Link could not hear the voices yet, but Sunny could. A hesitant smile appeared on his lips. Inside, Effie was speaking. What do you mean his fate was stolen by a wild bird? What kind of... How does that even work? Oh, never mind. She felt silent, but not for long. So he left us at Verge to go have a fight with a bird, then came back 4 years later to open a shop in Bastion. She paused for a moment before mumbling. Actually, he always wanted to run a memory shop. I guess dreams do come true. Good for you, Doofus. Then she suddenly yelled, but wait, there's more. He also seduced a poor, naive Nephis. That's the scoundrel. Sunny almost stumbled. Neff- Neff's even voice resounded from behind the closed door. Who says that it wasn't me who seduced him? What the fuck is going on? Effie seemed to have given her a look of pity. Oh, please. Nephis responded in the same reserved tone. But wasn't it you who suggested that I should? How exactly did you put it? Oh, yes. Effie's voice suddenly rose an octave. I did not. I absolutely did not. Your memory is messed up because of Cassie. That's why you think that I said all those things about Sunny, about how he is. He is. She fell silent, then said in a shaky tone, he is standing right behind me, isn't he? Sunny, who had opened the door a moment earlier, smiled. He is. Then a deafening shout made him wince. Mommy. Later, Ling dashed forward and slammed into Effie with all his transcendent strength. Any other mother would have probably been sent crashing into the wall by the unbridled enthusiasm of his embrace, but she just swayed faintly, glanced down, and wrapped her hands around the boy. Dumpling. Sunny watched them with a dubious smile. The scene was so overly sweet that his teeth hurt. It was a good thing that the little menace had only asked him for an infernal horse. In the next moment, however, someone slammed into him as well. Sunny. Sunny was dazed for a moment. What is happening? Who was hugging him tightly enough to make him feel like he was suffocating? Oh, right, it's the fool. It's that fool. Of course, it was Sky. Yeah, good to see you too, buddy. Now, can you let go of me? Instead of answering, Kai just hugged him tighter. Sunny let out a heavy sigh and glanced at Jet, who was sitting on a chair some distance away. His eyes were saying, please help. Jet glanced at him for a few seconds, then raised an eyebrow. What? You want me to join the hug, Sunny? Oh man, it's so sweet. He considered for a moment, looked at Nephis, then shook his head. Jet chuckled. Then a smile appeared on her lips, a rare soft smile that he had not seen grace her face before, and that suited her too well. Jet sighed. It is good to have you back, son. It's really, really good to have you back. Sunny remained silent for a short while. Eventually, he exhaled slowly. It's good to be back, everyone. Nephis, Cassie, Effie, Kai, Jet. Seeing them, he finally felt at home. There were a lot of things he had to do. The world was able to remember him once more. But for most people who had known him, that simply meant that they considered him dead. Buried under snow somewhere in Antarctica. Only those who had met the Lord of Shadows or Master Sunless face to face would know the truth. And out of them, most believed that the Lord of Shadows was gone. That meant two things. First, there was no threat of the Forgotten God waking up because of him, and second, that he had a lot of explaining to do. In the near future, Sunny would have to visit a few people. Teacher Julius, Saint Tyrese, Naive, was probably very confused at the moment. Sunny would finally be able to congratulate Quentin on surviving the second nightmare in a meaningful way and give Kim and Lester his official blessings. There were others as well. And of course, there was Rain. But for now, Sunny simply wanted to enjoy the company of his friends. He wanted to ask for their forgiveness too, even if they did not seem to hold his decision against him, even if he knew that he would make the same decision again. He had waited for his friends to greet him, knowing who he was for so long. Sunny let out a heavy sigh. Then he said, Alright, get in here, fool. With that, he wrapped his hands around Kai and hugged him back. This is a one time thing, okay? Don't get any ideas. Despite the dire state of the world here and now, it suddenly felt like things were going to be alright. Like their future was bright and there was hope for them still. I don't like the tone of this. I don't like how it's going. I think suddenly they are going to give a 360 of things and they are fighting another god or a foreign deity or something. My light is being weird. Wait a minute, let me fix it. Okay, lights fit. Let's continue reading. Sometime later, when the rest of the court left to attend the emergency assembly, Sunny stayed behind and slowly made his way to the upper floor of the manor. Then he knocked on a door and waited patiently for an answer. Eventually, the voice of a young woman resounded from the room inside. It's open. He hesitated for a moment, then opened the door and walked inside. The room was spacious and brightly lit. The rain was sitting behind a desk, writing something down on a piece of synthetic paper. Hearing his footsteps, he glanced up and smiled. Hey. Sunny lingered a bit, then closed the door behind him. Hey, Rain. Oh, Ascended Rain, I mean. Congratulations. She grimaced. I don't even remember becoming a master, so it's a bit peculiar. But thank you. Rain glanced away. Anyways, I have been told to rest and recuperate. The world seems to have the world seems to be going crazy outside, but it's all peace and quiet here on the upper floor. I think Nev's mom is in the next room over. Cassie was sleeping in a room across the hall, but since she's awake now, it's just me. Sunny nodded slowly. Rain. She drew a shaky breath and then glanced at him, her lips trembling a little. After a long while, she said quietly, you have been watching over me this whole time, long before we met in the conference room, convenience store, long before you told me who you are, that you and I are family. Sunny nodded slowly. Yes. Her smile faltered for a moment. But why? Why didn't you tell me sooner? Sunny remained silent for a long while, remembering his younger self. In the end, he said simply, because you didn't need me. Rain turned away. He hesitated a little, then walked over and put his hand on her shoulders. But for what it's worth, thank you. He smiled. You might not have needed me, but looking back, I needed you very much. Rain, so thank you for storming up to me that day years ago and calling me a brat. I don't think I would have ever gathered the courage to talk to you otherwise. Thank you for being alive, Rain, and for being who you are. So heartwarming, man. I am getting emotional. He glanced away, his smile turned softer. Look how far you have come, Rain. Not too bad for two orphans from the outskirts, isn't it? She glanced up at him, intense emotions burning in her eyes. Eventually, she took a deep breath and said, You do do you remember what you told me before going to Antarctica? You told me that you would be staying in the waking world this time and that I could message you whenever. You told me not to be a stranger. What was 7 years ago? Sunny, what the hell? Weren't you supposed to be the most honest person in the world, brother? Sunny grinned. Two worlds actually. Rain laughed, tears glistening in her eyes. Right. She paused for a moment as if remembering something and then said in a stunned voice, wait, you are my brother, but you still charge me a fee for our lessons. At premium rate, mind you. Sunny cleared his throat. Why wouldn't it be premium? Your brother is quite an awesome teacher, you know. Irene gaze turned perilous. Oh, don't I know it? Don't I know it well? Sounds of laughter resounded in the corridors of the old manor, dispelling the silence. Sunny had missed this laughter, but now he didn't have to miss anything ever again. Days later, far away, two figures emerged from the shadows of the forgotten shore. Okay, there seems to be some problem. Let me quickly fix it. Okay, I just got a little spooked because it's currently 5 a.m. right now and no one was supposed to be awake, and In the next rooms, I heard some noises, and for a few seconds, I was spooked. I didn't expect someone to awake this early, someone to woke up this early. But that aside, let us continue reading. Days later, far away, two figures emerged from the shadows of the forgotten shore. One of them was Sunny, and the other one was Asterion, bound, drained of essence, and barely able to walk. He had spent the last few days sealed in the sorcerer's circle on the underground floor of the nameless temple, in the company of Sunny's new shadow, that kept the dream spawn contained for a while, but it wasn't going to contain him for long. So Sunny had to come up with a different solution. He pulled back on the black chain, forcing Asterion to follow him up a tall mountain of rubble. Oh fuck! Is he going to dump Asterion in the dark sea of the Forgotten Shore? If I believe it was a supreme titan. Oh shit! They were climbing the remains of the Crimson Spire, while the battlefield where the Dreamer army had made its last stand loomed in the distance behind them. What a charming pace. Yep, place. Sorry, I'm not able to read. What a charming place. Asturion's voice was hoarse, but he still maintained his composure. Sunny did not answer. Instead, he continued forward until they finally reached their destination. At the heart of the towering ruin, a deep well brimmed with darkness. Far below, on the bottom of the well, there was a circle of black water, its surface flawlessly smooth like a dark mirror. Asterion glanced down, a rim of expressions settling on his face, a grim expression settling on his face. Eventually, he turned to Sunny and smiled. So, this is it then. A hint of malevolent amusement ignited in his golden eyes. This is where you intend to seal me. What a lovely choice. But you must know that I will escape the sea too. Just like I escaped the moon. One day I will break free. Sunny studied him for a while, his eyes full of somber consideration. Then he smiled faintly. Sure, I know you will. Sunny took a deep breath and glanced around. But it will take you a long time. And by the time you escape, we will either be gods or there won't be anyone left for you to devour. Sunny faced Asterion. Do you see Dreamspawn? Do you see Dreamspawn? Yes, I might not be able to destroy an idea. He raised his hand slowly, but I can make it obsolete. Obsolete. With that, Sunny smiled and pushed Asterion into the well, in the cold embrace of the dark sea. The Dreamspawn disappeared into the black water with a scream, and it swallowed him whole, suffocating the mild, dark malice of his voice. The water rippled a few times and grew still. Soon there was no trace of disturbance left on its surface, and no trace of him left under the lightless sky of the forgotten shore. The story of the Dreamspawn was over, and new stories were about to begin in his wake. Far away in the estuary of the River of Tears, Anke disembarked from a ship and jumped onto the soil of the Dream Realm. Her escorts stayed back, giving her space. She glanced down with an uncertain expression, unfamiliar with the feeling of a boundless expanse of solid ground under her feet. It was all so bizarre that she felt like her days were spent wandering the peculiar new world in a daze. There were no impenetrable walls of black stone behind the azure sky. There was only a single sun traversing its vast expanse. People aged with the passing of time and died of old age, while remaining in place. It was all strange and unfamiliar, but not unwelcome. Because this world was alive, it was full of life, and she was going to give her people a new life in this vast, vibrant world. Anke remained motionless for a long while, then pulled the seven bone amulets from beneath her mantle. Her melodious voice resounded in the misty shores of the storm sea, whispering the names of return and liberation. And then countless figures slowly began to appear around her, hazy at first, then more and more solid. And she welcomed them with a smile. She bowed. Anke of V greets the river people. On the other side of Dreamrealm, in the fractured halls of the Ebony Tower, Cassie inhaled deeply. She was standing in the middle of a dimly lit chamber, nothing adorned the black stone, and no one was keeping her company. She was alone in the darkness. Cassie had come here to call upon the power of her aspect. It was as Asterion had said. She could only manifest one supreme being, and she was already manifesting herself. Things were a bit better if she wanted to manifest a transcendent, though. She could manifest a transcendent titan or seven transcendent beasts. She could also manifest memories of that rank, but manifesting beings or items of that rank drained her essence. Maintaining the summoning permanently would present a problem. However, doing so with memories of lesser ranks was quite possible. She could sustain thousands of dormant memories in existence indefinitely, for example, if she so wished to. Of course, Cassie had no need for 1,000 dormant memories, but she had something else in mind. A cold wind seemed to blow across the dark chamber, and suddenly there was a man of around her age kneeling on the stone in front of her. Who is that man? Who is that man? The man seemed dazed and disoriented, grasping for breath. He was also entirely naked, so she picked up a folded blanket from a pile of them and wrapped it around his shoulders. The man flinched, glanced at her, his eyes fresh with a memory of terrible pain. For a moment, he seemed stunned by her sublime beauty, but then a hint of recognition slowly appeared on his face. The man groaned, then asked in a hoarse voice, "You are Cassia, aren't you?" Cassie nodded. "I am. You must be confused. Allow me to explain. Many years have passed since we saw each other last, and many things have. What the fuck? And many things have happened in these years. I have brought you back from beyond the grave because, despite all our differences, I believe that the world needs your potential." She straightened and glanced at the kneeling man with a solemn expression. Then she said, "Sleeper Gunlang, welcome back to the world of the living. I did not fucking expected this, man. At a moment I expected she brought back Castor, but then I thought, why would she bring back Castor? But she brought back Gunlang. Oh shit. Wait. And soon she repeated those words once more. Sleeper Kaido, welcome back to the living world of the living. Sleeper Gemma, Sleeper Park, Sleeper Steve, Sleeper Jubei. She is calling the entire Dream Army back from the dead. My god, this is another level power. This power is on another level. She called their names one after another until her voice grew hoarse and her head grew heavy. On that day, the dreamer of the Dark City finally returned from the crimson labyrinth of the Forgotten Shore, and she wasn't alone in the darkness anymore. End of volume 11. The Song of Adrian. It's the end. It's the end of the volume. I don't know when volume 12 will start because the story still is going to continue. It's not going to end, but it's the end of volume 11. My god, the Sleeper Army is back. The Dreamer Army is back. All of them that died during the siege of the Crimson Spires are back to the living. Man, that's crazy. That's crazy, man. The 100 sleepers from the Forgotten Shore made such a disruption. Imagine 600, 700 more sleepers from the Forgotten Shore, and it's also overwhelming. Even Guilty 3 sure knows how to end things well, man. Sure knows. It's a long video, but it was worth every second of it. What to say, man? What to say? Thank you for watching this video. If you liked this video, consider liking, sharing, and subscribing the channel so that I can continue making more these kinds of videos, and I will start streaming my reactions when I hit 100 subs. So if you want me to react to volume 12 or Shadow Slave, consider subscribing. So with that behind us, I will see you in the next video. Till then, take care and goodbye.